Hi, guys. We are live here on a Friday evening, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I am projecting to you and to the grander independent investor audience. I'd like to welcome the subscribers to the message, the devote subscribers, some of the most devout subscribers out there. I want to thank you. And for you guys that maybe are tuning in and see that I'm live here for the first time over social media, welcome. I don't know what I would do without this platform to come on and talk about what I feel like is almost an opposite effect. Unfortunately, I think people often succumb to behavior because it is politically correct to do so. I find all the time that, and I'm not a cynic, I don't just look at the opposite thing in all cases, but I cringe sometimes when I see some of the activity about how people react to, especially financial markets. This is an investing channel, but I dig a little bit deeper in perhaps maybe allowing people to understand that by understanding some of the basic principles about money, you can actually begin to enjoy something very, very magic in life, and that is to actually separate from your money. Okay, not pay so much attention to it. Now, I didn't say don't pay any attention to it. Some of these folks who float through life, and some of them are some of the privileged people that I know, that have been brought up in an environment where they don't have to work for money. Okay, now that I really can't help. I can't. Um, I don't know how I can teach somebody appreciation, but my program is not going to tell you how to trip and fall and become a millionaire overnight. That happens all too often in professional sports, in way of getting in and spending an average of about 5 years in that professional sport, and very few people even make it anyway. But the misery of it is those people, after they retire, they end up broke, 75% of those people, and they're making millions and millions of dollars. If I could ever accumulate a mill and a half, I would, it would be the pinnacle for me. And some people would say, well, you're a millionaire, Ryan. I don't know. I have an interesting perspective about what you can actually buy for, $250,000, a $500,000. And I'm not afraid to say those numbers. I don't shy away from them. I don't use the term millionaire very often because it's so misguiding to a lot of people. So misguiding. People get caught up in trying to pay attention to what everybody in society is trying to do to become a millionaire, and they fail to understand that the majority, if not the vast majority of people, will fail miserably of even coming close to that level of savings. Why? Because not only are they not mentally prepared to enter into that realm, which they're doomed anyway, but they fail to put the pieces in place over the course of your life. It's a lifetime pursuance of wealth. Some interesting content this week. There's some content creators that are really piling up on one in particular content creator, and it's one in particular. I started YouTube about the same time as this individual. I actually feel sorry for this individual now. I would never allow my life to be consumed by social media. Social media is pathetic. Y'all are some sorry people, man. If you get so enthralled by this thing, it's intriguing. The beauty of social media is connecting good people. There's no doubt about it. I see D Tanks in the group here, man. Ton of great people. That's why I do it. It's the sheer motivation behind me slowly defining my network. And that's the thing, as I look at the 27.9 thousand subscribers on the Independent Investor channel. If it ends up going down 15,000, then it'll be just like any other investment that I've had that's gone down maybe 50%. That's all right. It's amazing how those subscribers hold in there, and they're loyal to it. But I think it's a really, really rare opportunity for folks to come in and they get to talk to somebody like myself. I am live. If I cut myself open right now, we would go from like a commentary and an entertainment segue into an action movie really, really quick. The problem is I don't I don't script my stuff. So I really know, I never know from week to week. I never know what I'm going to actually engage in with my topics. I have a contrasting message tonight between what I feel like everybody wants to do and what nobody wants to do. And I find this contrast interesting because I find that what everybody wants to do will probably lead you to a darker place down the line. Some people are naive to it. Some people don't care. Some people are happy. You know what? I'm envious of those people. Those people that are like, man, alive, just happy, happy all the time. It wouldn't matter, you know. Maybe even people with less opportunity. I mean, here in America, we do a really good job of squandering opportunity. Even I'm guilty of waste. You know, yeah, if I had to buckle down and tighten down the screws on my program, I could do it. I could do it. A lot of countries are doing it just by necessity, that this is all they know to live what they consider just normal life. Americans would look at it and say, man alive, you living such a frugal life, you know, and people be like, what are you talking about? We value family, I value work, and I value health and well-being. You know, I spend my time probably more than you on focusing on those aspects that a lot of people that get caught up in the rat race of, you know, working until you're 50 and then keeling over with a heart attack at 50 years old are looking to pursue. You know, and the journey all the way up into that point is, look at me, I'm whipping some ass. I can buy a BMW and show off to my neighbor. Um, yeah, so the very contrast will give you kind of some insights into how I approach this deal and how I've observed. And I'm super proud. I'm different than a lot of people. I can't really engage all that often in the financial discussion with a lot of people. This is my out. This is where I get to come and actually do it. Some people appreciate that, some don't. And that's okay too. But what I said at the top of this live stream, I absolutely mean. You have to be very, very careful with paying zero attention to your personal finance and your discipline and your budget and all of the other attributes that actually come with the financial stewardship that I demand of people. And the very people that I demand financial stewardship of would probably be the most self deprecating or the most self demeaning people out there that all too often think that they cannot get ahead. Right? Rich people think they've got it licked. And that's a whole nother ball of wax out there of people who think they're financially successful because they have wealth. Um, I don't, I'm not quick to dub that success. I'm not, because it's the very nature of the appreciation that you have for that wealth. In other words, what did you have to do to accumulate that wealth? What is it that you define in way of wealth? Is it a stack of paper? I don't know. If that's your shallow interpretation of wealth, so be it. My interpretation of financial security down the line is being able to provide security, food, shelter, health, and well being, reserves, right? The ability to maybe segue, if nothing else, over the last couple of years, we've learned the value of our domicile as a sanctuary. You know, there's an idea for you. You want to be stuck up in the confines of the city like me? I mean, I'm in a city here with, you know, an ungodly amount of people. I mean, there's 500 million people just on Staten Island here where I'm at. Crazy stuff. Is that security? Is that success in my mind? No, I would share with you no. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people would rather just come onto social media and just exaggerate. Everybody wants to come and exaggerate. I'm awesome. Watch me. I have wings sprouting out my back, so come and watch me. I'm something special. When in fact, you know, it's amazing. I watch social media and I watch intently for people who demonstrate certain attributes like myself that actually give me some insight to understand that that person on the other end of the line understands that they're a human being. Yeah, and they are susceptible to mistakes. You buy Tattooed Chef and you lose $800,000. When is it that you accept some responsibility for that rather than just suggest that maybe it's everybody else's fault? See, that's the category of what everybody wants to do. The consumers of that message, they want it to be true. The provider or the facilitator of that message wants to give an image that everything is okay, that you can just somehow wait it out, that somehow in the eyes of the stock market that is still a prudent financial move. I mean, I'm here to tell you and declare to you it's bullshit. It is. It's just utter bullshit. You know, you got to be a little bit more scrutinizing about the information that comes through. And what I'm really interested in the network and the way I would assume that or presume or even expect that my audience receive my message is one that you put due attention to, but nothing more. Nothing more. Um, now, I wear the same T-shirt every single. It's snowing out right now. I'm still wearing my. I don't have any socks on right now. I believe we can talk personal finance, and I don't have to have a suit and tie. It's something that I've believed all the way from the beginning, and a lot of people will disagree with me. A lot of people would say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You're eligible to step into this realm of discussing the sacred financial element with people if you're in a suit and tie and you present yourself well." Perhaps, maybe. I don't know. Drinking a Jack and Coke tonight. All the best of the evening to you guys, man. I cheer to you guys. Andres Valencia is in the house. Talking some technicals here. This week on the daily chart, textbook, 3-bar play, flawless, fantastic. Good stuff, man. Appreciate you stopping by. But I always look to draw this contrast, and I think it's important for people to understand I'm really always trying to get to that root of truth for me. For me. I don't want you to come and listen to me talk and suggest that somehow, I'm a truth teller. A lot of people come into my message and they completely disagree with what I say. I'm not elegant. I'm not. Um, and I'm not one of those people that patronize. If I see something the way that it is, I will tell it the way that it is. Yep. And that's a lot of what separates me from a lot of content creators. Maybe it's because I'm older. Maybe it's because I'm 45. I don't know. To be honest with you, at 45, I should probably have no business on social media, to be honest with you, right? This is a young person's game, right? All the young people want to come in like a piranha tank and, you know, bop each other on the head and prove how awesome they are as young people. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is one of the most lost generations that I've ever seen. Um, I think they need to figure out what it is in life is going to make them tick. Because just trying to prove something to an invisible audience on social media so that they can get the likes on their profile is a shallow pursuit of happiness in this life, no doubt about it. I want to find that one person that you can reciprocate some attention in and get along with. Maybe, I don't know, duplicate yourself. That's a lot of fun. Yep. Find yourself raising some children. You'll find that your life becomes a whole hell of a lot less about yourself and a whole lot, hell of a lot more about others. And for me, there's not a whole lot left for me. I'm a happy guy. I talk about that spiritual actualization all the time. I speak about, finding those. For me, it's the 16 things that make me tick. And I look at my pyramid all the time in my mind, and I realize how lucky I am that I spend very little to no effort in a lot of different aspects, if not most of them. Now, I don't walk around in a euphoric cloud all the time, but I spend more time than the average bear in the top of the pyramid, and I'm a lucky man for that. Really appreciate you guys joining me this evening, and hope all is well. We've just kicked into the winter here in New York. Be kind of cool to kick into the holiday season and really close out this year in what has been fairly crazy markets right now, guys. If you would tell me that we're over 20% or down 20%, I'd probably be surprised to report to you that the S&P off 16%, And the Dow in the value category here in US markets year to date are down only 8%. It feels worse than that, but from the perspective of sentiment this year, I can tell you there's been times during this year that have cut pretty deep. Not for me. I've been fine. I've been buying this entire time. As a matter of fact, I've taken my foot off the throttle a little bit and put a little reprieve on the buying. But I've been buying heavy over the last 18 months, going back to the beginning of last year. And it has been a prolonged downturn for me. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I do have a special guest this evening, a little bit of a special treat to mix it up. Bringing two nations together. My Canuck brother from the north is going to be on this evening. I'm super stoked to talk to him. But before we do, man, we're going to cut out for a short break here. I'll be back with you in just a moment. Always a special treat when I got Kyle in the house, man. Kyle's awesome. He gives me energy, so I got to up my game when Kyle comes on the live stream, man. Get my energy. Kyle, what's going on, my brother? It's great to see you, man.
Trying to live the dream here like you, man. Jesus,
You
I
are.
was like, wasn't expecting that. I'm running around. I just get back from dinner and I threw it up. Boom, here I am.
That's the beauty of connection, man. Yeah.
Winter's hitting hard, man. How are you enjoying the calamity? This has been probably one of the most dramatic couple weeks in the market I've ever seen in my life. Worse than Enron, worse than Bernie Madoff. It's
trillions of dollars in the toilet, man. They're gone.
It's iconic. I don't think people understand Tom Brady, Kevin O'Leary, everybody from Millennial Money, half the YouTube finance sphere. It's like, man, overnight, there is no bailout. This isn't a Lehman Brothers. This is worse. There's no government coming in to help you anymore.
Yeah, that's part of the fear. There was a pretty good interview today about, how much there's pretty serious talks about regulating cryptocurrency, and by doing that, opting into that regulation and oversight, do they almost put themselves in a position to offer a certain bailout if situations like this could happen into the future? Are we talking about a GM situation like we had 10 years ago where, people have absolutely got crushed? I think some of the things that I'm seeing is the neutrality of the financial markets. That's kind of cool. It seems like the banks are actually doing quite well through this, and financial markets have held up well. It seems to be fairly isolated to the crypto market. Coinbase is kind of taking a little bit of a hit too, but anything FTX related, it's going to be interesting to see how the story unfolds. It's not over. It's not over. A lot of damage has been done, and I think perhaps maybe even more damage is to come. What's your thought?
Well, it depends. Crypto market's obviously dead for now. Full crypto winter. It's going to take a while until there's some proven aspects of it before I think we see another bull run, which I think is coming. It's like the .com era, right? Like 99% of tech companies went bust in 2001. Crypto's the same thing. Like there's huge waves of technology there. It hasn't gone anywhere yet or been implemented into video games with NFTs or any of that stuff. So it's too nuanced. But from the bank standpoint, I think banks, a lot of the REITs, the only good thing about this is during the pandemic, a lot of big companies really really foundationally set up their balance sheets. Like some of the REITs that I buy here in Canada are very robust, set up for a market like this.
You're big on it.
They set up huge loan loss provisions. They got a ton of capital, and now interest rates are going up. So it's a double-edged sword, right? They might see a slowdown in mortgages, but they're printing off interest, and people are spending money, man. Credit card debt's hit an all-time high. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but I went to the mall, and it does not look like we're in a recession yet.
People spending. Yeah, for sure. Hey, something I kind of noticed, you did a little bit of a comparison. You were talking about one of the bigger YouTube channels, and you really do a good job of staying really above board. I mentioned at the top of the stream, I actually watch now, and I kind of feel bad for people that are incurring that kind of loss. And you talked about needing to have such a risk tolerance to play that game. And I heard you say that, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if anybody can stomach that. People can tell themselves all day that they can, but you had shown your portfolio. For those that don't know you very well, and maybe come in and are introduced through my message, give us a little bit of a breakdown about your investing strategy. And that'll kind of help somebody where you're coming from and what your goals are, what you're trying to maintain, because you are diversified. You kind of broke down, and challenged the notion of diversification as stated by the individual that you're looking to critique, in all fairness. But
Jeremy. Yeah,
mhm,
financial education, right? I don't know. It's
mhm,
it, I think from the diversification standpoint, for me, it's out of fear. Like I obviously through 2019, 2020, 2021, like the money was so insane. Like you could have threw a dart at the board. So I think all of us,
that's right.
everybody, even everyone watching this, there's nobody above moral standard here. We all got kind of greedy, but like I was always really prudent about obviously like weighting these stocks. Like even Tesla, I wouldn't like get more than 10% of my portfolio. And if it went too much, I would just take profits, right? But I think
Yeah,
my standpoint today is more or less like, because me and my fiance, like we're good. I'm like, I don't need to gamble anymore. I don't need to chase things like I once did. So I'm not nearly as from, and the thing with the diversification and why like, cause I only really drove into ETFs at the beginning of this year out of
yeah,
pure fear of my own stupidity. Cause I just didn't know what's going to survive this. I mean, we hold
yeah,
stock still that like my subscribers are kind of hurt by, which like Algonquin Power, like some of these utilities are even getting slaughtered because they mismanaged their debt and they had short-term loans, right? So their lease,
yeah.
as soon as the interest rates went up, they're starting to get just slaughtered because they're not locked in for 5 or 10 years. So I mean, you really that's what scared the shit out of me, because I'm like, do I know enough to
Interesting.
hold 20 or 30 stocks and be aware of what ones are going to come through this? Whereas you buy something like
I know.
VYM or SCHD and they're waiting oil stocks. Like I would have never bought oil stocks. And my portfolio is doing really great,
Mm-mm.
primarily because look at Exxon. It's back in the top 10 S&P.
Killing it.
Look at
Killing it.
BYM has Chevron, Exxon, even got Berkshire outperforming because of the oil
Hmm.
exposure. And I wouldn't have done that personally because I was too ignorant to the sector. But at least these ETFs auto weight by market cap. So you end up getting some of that performance. And when it goes off, it just starts underweighting. Like it's so beautifully mathematically managed that you get a lot of the upside and a lot of the lower end downside when these things start. Like look at Meta, right? Meta used to be an S&P top 10. Now
Hmm.
it's somewhere down in the top 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like you kind of have to understand, like I don't know. I just for me personally, just because I want to sleep at night.
It takes an extreme amount of maturity to take on that strategy. Not a lot of people have it, but you said something really interesting about you're kind of at a point now. You took some good risk at an appropriate time, and I think there's something to be said about that. And I think there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are, getting caught up in this whole dividend thing. And unfortunately, look how it worked out for you. You got to a point where you kind of accelerated the
Yeah,
game a little bit, and I'm not saying it's right for everybody. Everybody really needs to identify, start defensive, and understand that tolerance. But you kind of did accelerate your wealth growth, in that you should be at that seven figure well in advance of a normal mathematical curve. We want to set people on a trajectory and an education to realistically have some financial security down the line. But you mentioning that is really important, and a lot of people fall on tilt, and it's like, I can continue this. You've kind of taken a digression from that to say, you know what, I'm going to put it on a little bit more of a predictable trajectory.
I think you have to framework it too, depending on where you are at your investing career. Because I'm not somebody that ever made six figures at my job up till like
That's good.
2021. Like I
Good
wasn't
point.
making big money, right? So I was younger and I was so prudent about trying to find something that could fast track it. So I was more intrigued by the individual stock positions, which is what kind of got me to where I
Fair
am here.
enough.
But again, pure fear at the scale that I'm at. Like I can't be like financial education where all of a sudden you make it big. Like you kind of get to these goals that are like, holy shit, at 30, this is relatively impressive, but I can't keep doing it because I'm too scared to lose it. So I'm like, I'd rather look at making a 5 or 10% return on half a mil
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
than, make a 20 or 30%, but be highly leveraged to volatility, right? Because it gets sketchy, man. Like I don't know, like I said, it's just I'm always horrified and terrified of losing money. So like when you make it and you have really good gains, my whole rule was always diversify. Tesla goes up big, diversify it, scale it down. That's what I did with all of them. Like Apple, same deal. Like, I mean, Apple was a huge hit for me. And this is someone talking about 3 to 5 year long run terms, though. Same thing with you, right? Like, you're not buying these stocks, even though they're volatile, for next year, next month.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not.
all of us, like, I held like Canopy was a big one for me in the beginning. I held that for like 3 years. Like Tesla, I didn't like that one's probably a shorter time frame because I got it toward the end of 2019. But I think people have to understand too, right? Like, I went through the volatility, but I didn't have as much money, so it didn't bother me as much because I mean, I showed it in my last account performance. I was like, in my early days of investing, my account dropped like 45%, and it
Yeah,
didn't recover for like a year and a half, 2 years. But
yeah,
again, I didn't have a lot of money. I believed in what I was doing, and I just kept buying these kind of things, and it worked out. But again, now if you do that and you screw up, you're only going to screw up once or twice.
yeah. Well said.
I,
Let me ask you. I want your perspective on something. And you know, Jeremy's getting some scrutiny, and anymore, man. I really do kind of. I wish he could talk to me like just man to man, one on one. I wish I could talk to the guy because I don't really think Jeremy's immune to making a decision to say, you know what, I'm already a multimillionaire. Let me just digress. And maybe people who are scrutinizing me, some are being assholes about it. I totally get it. I never want to get off on somebody's misfortune. I don't want to see that because it's not he made the decision, but think about how many people are also maybe taking that and saying, I don't know, I trust this guy, whatever. But here's the thing. Is he so far along the line to where he's immune from subjecting his decisions to massive losses into the future with his strategy? Or is he just going to remain a millionaire and it doesn't matter what he does? He can screw up royally. It doesn't matter. Are we in a 2022 right now where we can create a figure like that? That in my mind, I would love to see the guy pull chalks and start teaching people about a little bit more self-discipline because the way he talks,
he
he
doesn't
taught
have it though. He like so
no,
it
no, very
I
well
talked
said.
about it today. He just posted a video where he was asking people for help, and he's looking for his quote unquote Charlie Munger from the random skew of people on the internet, even though he had Grant
Okay.
Stephan, Mika. Like, the guy had such a sphere of an intellectual
Mm,
investment, even had everything money reaming him out. And then here he is all of a sudden saying, okay, I overexposed myself to Tattoo Chef. I didn't follow my rule of exposure. It was a mistake. I should have diversified. Like, he just did a
okay.
180 all of a sudden. And I
Oh,
just found it so oblivious and odd. It floored me a little bit because I'm like,
that's interesting.
what are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, this was your go-to. This is how you were doing it. And then out of nowhere now you're like making it out like Tattoo Chef was this huge mistake. And yeah, maybe it was, but like, my biggest problem with him specifically is it's very similar to venture capital, which I kind of abbreviated on, is
You
that
did.
like he's picking like 10 to 20 stocks, and he kind of was gloating that, oh, well, everyone's making fun of me because only Tesla and Elf made all my money. And he's like, but I picked those stocks. It's like, yeah, but that means your win rate is like
Yeah.
5 or 10%, which means if you didn't pick the lottery of those two stocks, you wouldn't be seeing those gains. And a lot of people did not pick those kind of stocks. They didn't see the 1,000x return like you did from Tesla. They maybe bought something like a Meta. They maybe bought a PayPal or a Netflix, and they lost 50% with no gain.
Tons of money. Yeah.
Like, it's lottery playing, right? So for me, it's just like the guy doesn't have any long-term built-in strategy, which is something that I've always advocated, that even Kevin O'Leary advocates toward. Like, if you're buying speculative stuff, when you make money, diversify, think the long term. And long-term investing is
Yeah.
like Graham Stephan, like VTI, like these. You always have to have something like that in the background. And maybe his wife does, maybe he does in his private accounts, but
Sure.
the
Sure.
way he's acting right now, to me, says that I think he's starting to get cracks in the emotional barrier to the
That's
volatility of, do these things really come back? Because
yeah.
Micron never came back from the dot-com bubble. A
I
lot
know.
of bank stocks never came back from 2008. Like, you look at, like, I don't know if it's Bank of America, but when you look at those charts, that could be any company. There's nothing saying they have to go back to all-time highs, even
Well
if they
said.
make good money for the next decade, right? Like, there's no guarantee in life with this kind of investing strategy. So
Yeah.
you got to be
Yeah.
careful.
Well said. I it's just too bad, there was a lot of followers. I'm pretty insightful too. I really do kind of feel for the guy. I feel for anyone, help anybody. I really do. Um, but yeah, to see somebody like that and have so many people following me. He had, a lot of followers right in the palm of his hand, and it just gives investing kind of a black eye. Then I hear folks like your channel's growing really well. Just keep pressure on it.
I
You're
don't
going
need
to
to
be up there with a little bit. What's that?
I don't need to be big. Everyone's like, "Oh, your
I don't.
channel." I'm like, I make six figures off YouTube between my channel, other social media account. Like, I don't care about the glamour of, oh, I need to be. If I'm not at the scale of
100,000.
Jeff and I'm nobody, I'm happy being a nobody. I like it because when pressure comes on like this,
Nah.
who's everyone pointing the finger at now? Those guys. They're the ones that could get sued. They're the ones that are gonna have. I'm just too small to give a shit about. So don't make that think that I'm gonna be like,
Well
more
said.
just. But
Yeah, yeah,
I like
yeah.
being nimble. I don't care, so long as I'm making money and my family's good and we're happy, who cares? I don't need.
Nice to hear somebody actually say that. It's actually refreshing, because when you start YouTube, what other goals do you have? What do you think quantifies success on YouTube? And for me, it was kind of like, oh, I got to get to that first 100 subscribers, and you do, and it's like, wow, that was crazy. And then you get to 1,000, and then it starts to grow from there. And it's like, where can it stop, and this and that. Me personally, I've never cared. I've said this many times. I've had people go through the channel. I've seen 50 channel creators come and go too, Kyle.
Oh, same. It's
Some
crazy.
good, some really good people, really good people. And for whatever reason, they say, doesn't mean they're bad people because they've moved away from social media. I don't think this is for the faint of heart, to be honest with you,
It's
but I'm
it's
I'm with you.
it's you need, well, because like for me, I came from the entertainment industry, like criticism and crap, used to it. It was my entire life for a decade. You get criticism from every front. I used to do, everything from the entertainment, bar magic stuff, like everything. So, YouTube's a walk in the park because who cares about comments? And I don't know about you, but
Mm,
I grew up on early internet days, and I don't know if you guys were
uh-huh.
around before there was
Yeah,
YouTube finance, guys. You had stock twits, you had forums, and they were
yeah,
toxic. They were like
yeah,
beyond, like, if you can't handle the little bit of drama on this stuff, like, man,
yeah,
you should have existed 10 years ago on the internet with stocks, because
yeah,
it was worse than 4chan. Like, it was so toxic and so gambly, and everyone calling, like, I should even,
yeah,
like, some of the comments I get on forums now are funny, like, oh, your haircut, like, oh, I'd listen to you, but you need to, like, just stupid crap. And you're like, man, so I get why people, especially when you lose money. I mean, it's one thing when you, like, when you get kind of caught up in a sphere like FTX or crypto, like, I can see how it really crushes your soul. Like, when your portfolio drops 50%, and then you have all this hate coming on top of you, your family's probably getting hypercritical of you because, like, it's your family's wealth. So I mean, like, you're mismanaging it to some varying extent. And I'm going to say
hmm
Jeremy's mismanaging it, because to lose 50% of your portfolio when the S&P is only down 17-16% on a year, and VYM, SCH, like, he just, again, this comes back to the point of, you don't know what you don't know. And there's
yeah,
stocks that are like Exxon. These stocks are up 100% this year. It's like, if you
yeah,
miss that, then clearly, like, your investing philosophy isn't including the broader sectors that
yeah,
will outperform in market cycles like this, which means you're kind of being oblivious to the broader picture, which, if you are, then you need some exposure to it, right? So, like I said, I was ignorant to that. I completely was, until I got slapped upside the head with Meta this year. And, I started seeing some of my stocks drop 50%. And I was like, I can't have this be my whole portfolio, or I'm going to be in trouble. So
yeah,
let's
yeah,
do some adjustments. I still hold a lot of individual stocks. Like, my fiance holds a lot of individual stocks, but we're very mitigated. I think it's maybe like 10 or 15% of our whole portfolios are individuals. And I'm very proud of that. And we're sitting on about 10-15% cash. So I'm like, that makes me sleep so comfortably at night. It's my sweet spot. So, you know,
I thought I had remembered a time. Me and you've known each other a long time, and I think there was a time there when me and you were kind of going back and forth on cash, and it speaks a little bit to the times. It was a lesson that I learned where it just made sense to me. So when I come onto social media and it's like, I just feel comfortable. It doesn't matter, and flush markets, everybody's like, why don't you just throw it in the market? Like you said, it was easy money, come on. But then you really realize the opportunistic cost of money, and how it just being static and neutral can kind of play that buffer and also provide that liquid fund. Because I have been deploying some cash, I've been replenishing the cash, but most people would take like a short-term line of equity on their home, or go into the
yeah,
bank and buy, or even worse, maybe take out a cash advance on a credit card. I just look at it like I'm taking a loan from the Bank of Ryan,
yeah.
and I'm making smart purchases with it. I'm making opportunistic stock purchases. So, and I try to replenish that cash.
Have you been through like a major emergency event? Like, I've been through two of them now, and thank God for March of 2020, because like you said, like, I was all cash in the market. I thought that was my liquidity, didn't care. And then when I lost my job in the pandemic, which was crazy stressful and pivotal, I quickly realized the value of that emergency, like Dave Ramsey would say, right? And then coming into this crash, I won't talk about it publicly, but my family, unfortunately, has been hit really hard through some aspects of this. And
Yeah.
I had to come up with like, a huge
Yeah.
chunk, and I'm still having to help out. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad I had
It
this.
comes in handy, right?
Because like, if I have 10 grand immediately gone like that, and at least I'm not utilizing debt and I'm still having cash left over to continue to help. Like, I don't talk about that stuff. I wish
I know.
my family's not open enough and they get pissed. And I've already been reamed out 10 times because I've abbreviated on a few streams where I was like, this is kind of what's happening.
Sure.
I wish they were more open, because I feel like a lot of people are going through that. And these are the moments where, like, when you have that liquid cash and you need lawyers or you need something and you have to come up with 10, 20 grand, like, holy crap. Like Dave Ramsey said, it takes an extreme situation and makes it an uncomfortable one, but not necessarily an unaffordable one. Like I said, I just, it's not something I think anyone will ever appreciate until it happens.
Perhaps you're right.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, I need cash. Like I can't be, because then again, you end up in this situation where, you need the money and your stocks are down 30 or 40%.
Yeah.
That's exactly. That could have happened to me very much this year if it wasn't for that cash position. So, I mean, and same with 2020, like if I wasn't in in a cheaper living position, like I was, like I would have had to sell my stocks at the bottom of the market. Instead, because I was super cheap and the government started funding us, I was able to actually invest in the down period because the government was just giving us $2,000 a month. That helicopter money, baby. Canada gave us a lot more than they gave you.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I think I got like 12 grand from the government or something. I ended up having to pay like 2 or 3 of it back because I made money for it the year. But I was like, man, it was a weird time.
I think that's a big takeaway for people, is to anticipate that life is going to happen. You can't put your thumb on what those life events could potentially be, but give it a try. I would love to live in a world where I could just take all my cash and put it to opportunity. But
now you can, right? Now you get good interest rates on banks again. You got GIC, short-term 30-day.
We're in a different era. Yep.
Like, there's a lot of good cash. Like I was looking at my fiance's cash account, and I was like, holy shit, like the interest she's making. Like, again, we're not talking huge interest, but you've got decent chunk of change sitting around
between
and
2 and 3.
It's making you 500, 1,000 a month just sitting in a savings account, or not a month, but maybe like annually on like a
annually.
2%.
That's right.
It's like, man, all of a sudden cash is like, you can print it again if you got a decent little chunk of savings. Not like a year or two ago when you're getting 0.05%.
Zero. Yeah, really zero, or teaser rates to get into these high interest, then they drop it right down on you for sure. Yeah, no, that's a really good point for sure.
But, I don't want to cut out here too early. I'm going to get off in a sec, but I got to ask you, man, how are you managing all this? I've been catching the odd stream here and there. I'm glad I could get on tonight, but you're holding up well through this. Family's good. Everything's all right.
Through what?
I want to hear.
Me personally, I'm tickled, and nothing could be going better for me. The move was a little tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
When you have to uproot, I mean, I had to pull the daughter out of high school. That's something we talk about in my line of work all the time. Oh, I'll never do that. I had a heart to heart with her at 15 years old. And it's like, well, where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go to New York City. So over the last 2 years, that has been the toughest part, a life move. But as far as finances, things are starting to like materialize in a way that I could have never imagined.
Well deserved.
I'm super thankful. Perhaps what does a person deserve? I don't know. There's a lot of hard workers out there that deserve a lot and they don't get that pay dirt. So I'm very humbled at it as well. I look at the channel as a give back. I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of my videos. Like, you're staying very consistent with your upload schedule. That's something that if I could like self-induce on the Independent Investor channel, because I'm very proud of the project. I'm doing enough right now to stay relevant. I'm doing what I want to do. But for the fundamental core stuff, that really takes a lot more free time that I have now. But as far as making it, and I'm killing it. I'm killing it. I feel kind of, look, the markets are going to go up and they're going to go down. And when I tell people, you really have to have a neutral application. If you're losing sleep, like you had mentioned tonight, then just throttle it. It's okay to admit that.
Yeah.
Hard
especially because I think it's harder to admit losses than it is gains. I think gains come from more or less luck, market conditions, because you just don't know what you don't know, and nobody knows everything about a company. It's just FTX is the greatest example. Nobody knows everything, even though it sounds like they do. So when you
100%.
kind of have to just stomach it and ask yourself, is it truly just the market driving the stock down, or is this well beyond that, right? And what could the recovery be looking like in the future? Because a lot of things aren't looking bright. Like the whole vegan sector of the market. I mean, McDonald's got rid of Beyond Meat. Like
I
everyone,
know.
all of
I
a
know
sudden,
it.
everyone's like, okay, these aren't selling.
Yeah.
Everyone thought it was hot, and now all of a sudden it's not, and you're seeing sales just. And that's again, Tattoo Chef with Jeremy. But to your point too, man, I think the biggest thing, and I think it's going to be a huge discussion moving forward. PPC Ian was doing this, which blew my mind, is geo arbitrage, because we're going to do the. I mean, you moved to New York for your work. We're looking to move to like Alberta or somewhere that's like. When we looked at the cost of living and the standard of living you get outside of Toronto, like to be a millionaire here is to be middle class. I'm like, we could move there already,
right.
semi-retire, and the money we'd be saving every single month just on rent. Forget the food that's already cheaper. The rent alone, we'd have enough money to go to Japan every month. I'm like, it's
awesome.
just nuts, because the cost of living there is half as much. The average house there is like 350. Toronto, it's $1 million plus. It's like,
I know.
you're like, why am I here? Like, why, standard of living, do we want to have kids? Do we want to travel? Well, this isn't the opportune place anymore. It's just like,
no.
San Francisco, New York's like that. Like, it's just
100%.
If you can make it online or localized work, remote jobs, like get out of these. Like, I'm so happy that PPC Ian did that and talked about it, because I'm like, I think this is going to be so much more relevant in my generation than ever before, because all our parents are like, you have to buy a house. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be $500,000, $1 million in debt. Like, how insane that is? Even with the money we have, putting every dime down, we'd still be $500,000 in the hole. It's like, it's, and everyone acts like that's normal here.
I know.
Not normal for me. Like, that doesn't feel right.
But you
hard.
don't feel guilty for standing up for what you believe. I'm going to talk about that if you kick off my contrast and thought, you know what I mean? But
I'm going to go. Always, I just wanted to pop in and say hi, man. I love you. I love what you're doing. I'm
likewise.
So happy your family and the move's been good, and you're keeping bright. I love it. I'll touch base with you soon here, brother.
Likewise.
Appreciate you
bringing. Be well.
Captain,
be well, brother.
Man, stay lit.
Yeah, man. Later, brother. Very cool, man. Love having the guests on, man, for sure. We left the link in the top of the live stream. If anybody wants to kick into the live stream and get a little airtime, I made Eric famous last week, and he did a good job. I found a replacement for the Independent Investor Channel live stream when I done retire. The problem with that is I won't ever stop the project. It's interesting, man, what I pick up, and what Kyle asked me about, how you doing. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But it's the very root of what I teach about separating from your money. Perhaps maybe if losses or perceived volatility in 2022 really does bother you, you are not me, right? And I want to share my perspective with regard to my current situation holistically. I'm a very, very happy person. My employment is very, very strong. I'm moving up in my current employment. I'm taking on a position of great prestige. And even though with that, I could completely do away with my portfolio and probably live the same standard of life that I'm living now. Just imagine that you don't have your portfolio. Imagine that you're not an investor. Imagine that the winds of fortune in your life never gave you that introduction to finances. And here you are at me, 45, not invested. You, 28, not invested. 35, not invested. Would you be less, more happy, neutral? I don't know. It's a good thing to kind of challenge a little bit. So when Kyle says, "Are you okay?" the implication is that there's a lot of people in 2022 that might be feeling worse because they are an investor, rather than just acknowledging, look, it's just been a volatile year. We are off 16% on the S&P. There will be better times, and these times are easier to forget when we leave them in the past. I've been through this many, many times. Kyle kind of touched on it a little bit, in that I can't duplicate the amount of experience that you'll get by incurring downturn in the stock market. What I try to do is embrace it. I try to capture it. I try to codify it for you, and I try to turn back the true essence of the feeling that people have when volatile market kicks up. It'll never go up again. Stocks will never go up again. Your portfolio is going to go to zero. That's where some of those titles come to really scoff at the idea and really try to capture what most people are dubbing the stock market when volatility kicks up. There's no hope. There's exacerbated selling. To hell with it. I'm just going to throw in my towel. All of that stuff are mannerisms of retail investors past that I look to challenge every single Friday. Look, this is 60 minutes that I get to come on and talk unabated about personal finance and challenge so many different pillars of incorrect application in stock market investing. And if people can just resonate with that and just say, you know what, Ryan's right, the best thing I could possibly do is invest hard, invest with discipline, and forget that I'm even an investor. Focus on life. Yeah, focus on the portfolio for a while. Focus on your budget discipline. Focus on those things that matter. You want to build up a little bit of cash? Yeah, I like what Ryan and Kyle were talking about with having a little bit of cash buffer on the side a little bit. I like that idea. I don't know. Maybe you come to me and you're like, no, no, I want to invest it all. I'm awesome. You suck and cash sucks. All right. Pick your poison. It's all good. I've been through that before enough to say that I don't really feel that comfortable. I like to have that static buffer. I like to increase my cash position where appropriate when I have that surplus capital. And, it's amazing how life can happen like that to allow you those opportunities to say, hey, look, maybe this can segue into my cash bucket rather than increase my dollar cost averaging strategy. On the channel, I'm going to start to roll out. I haven't done portfolio reviews for a while. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised to know that, the M1 Finance dividend portfolio just crept over the $36,000 mark just today. That's growing. I do $125 every 2 weeks. These are strategies that regular people, retail investors can resonate with. And by creeping up over 36,000, you might think, "Oh man, Ryan, that's cool, I guess." I mean, you're not going to do anything with 36,000. You could buy a half a car with it, I guess. That's not the point. The point is I started it in 2019, just 3 short years ago, and started that account with $1,500, and I've been able to amass this fortune to 36,000. The next threshold of wealth in that portfolio was 50,000, right? You guys remember when I mentioned the $25,000 threshold? It wasn't that long ago. And that's why I want to mention some of the takeaways. The title of this video is Entering into 2023. I want to give you just 6 tidbits, maybe 7 here, probably 6. But ignore what you perceive about time. This is super important. A lot of people will engage hard in a program and they're really excited at the start, and a year will go by and they're really excited, and 2 years will go by and they're excited, and then 3 years will go by and they're like half as excited as they were when they started, and then 4 years go by, and within 5 years you've kind of whittled down all the excitement, and in the thoughts start to creep in about all the things that you could have done with that money, or what you missed out on, or what you had to give up to be in that specific position. And you lose perspective on that because you're looking at the time, all that time that you're looking at investing as time that could have been spent elsewhere. And you start to play these mental games, but don't ever buy into what your mind says about time, because everybody says life is short. No, it's not. Life is awesome. I'll take every second that's given to me. Life is awesome. Life is long. It's been long for me. I think about when I was a kid. It seems like a long damn time ago, right? Don't ever lose track of that. When we push out our portfolio potential 20 years, 20 years is a long time. But people get caught up in that 1, 2, 3 year cycle, and that excitement for investing kind of falls off a little bit. Don't ever allow that to happen. Trust only what makes sense for you. Myself and Kyle talked about it tonight when we were talking about if cash makes sense for you or if a defensive strategy makes sense for you. He kind of talked about a 10 to 15% allocation to single stock. If that works for you, then it works. That's great. All right. Pick those layers that work for you and your program. Stick to the strategy. Okay. It doesn't matter if we're in 2022 or 2023 or 2019. It was mentioned tonight on the live stream, a 2020 or 19 was a time where you could just throw money at the market. I don't know. Yeah, it was easier to throw money at the market in 2019, but only time will tell in reflection to 2022 whether or not this was an opportunity time to say, God, the market was crazy down. Why the hell wasn't I buying? Right? We won't have those answers until the future, and we're reflecting on now, on whether or not now is a time. And I would suggest that it is. Right? When people think that it's a good time to buy, maybe that's not the best time to buy, and when people think it's the time to sell all your portfolio because 2023 is going to be going into a nosedive, maybe that's the time to add a little strategic capital to the markets. Continue to keep perspectives and aspirations vivid and constant in your mind. Why are you doing what you're doing? You're aspiring to be in a different place. And if you do this thing right, at least partially right, and not completely wrong, we talked about an example of how to do it completely wrong. And I'm just not sure if I understand if there's been some false motivations there. You know, Everybody talks about controversy selling through YouTube, and it just amazes me the sheep that line up to see that activity on every video that's released. I mean, I can hold 50 solid subscribers for my live stream, but there's 50,000 people that come in and watch that controversy, and that's what it is at the expense of an individual. Honestly, there should be some therapy thought there, sought, because there's some emotional problems there, and it's really too bad. But you never want to lose track of those reasons as to why you're pursuing those ends. All right, and the last thing is to think less about the money, not more. I mentioned this at the top of the live stream. This would be one of those takeaways. And I don't know if people come in and they watch me for my entertainment. I don't know. Maybe they know that I'm pouring a real like Jack and Coke and having a drink with y'all. I don't know. Whatever your motivation is, I don't know. But if I can impart to you the secret to my success, the less I think about money, the more successful I am. The more I focus on those strategies that are going to generate more cash, those opportunities to share. I mean, this is about as open as I can share on the Independent Investor channel. I'm very, very proud of this project. I very much am. I love the title of my project, The Independent Investor. It speaks to me. It really codifies who I am. Absolutely independent in my thought, on an island, challenging the status quo. That's me, baby, right? But this has been a nice little niche on YouTube, a project that has allowed me a strategic out. And it's not so unique that somebody couldn't say, hey, I want to do a side business, or I want to sell some product on the side in eBay, or I want to do this over here or that. It's shaping up to be an interesting contributor to my wealth generation. Yep, it really is. And it's not work. This is fun for me. It's really fun. That's why I really try to focus on you guys and making those connections that I do through social media. And I don't know when they're going to come. I don't know when they're going to come. I just had one this evening. Somebody reached out to me and it's like, hey, here's what we're thinking. Here's what we propose. And I never know when those opportunities. I had a colleague ask me this week, do you cold call people? And I'd be like, well, I've always despised cold calling people. So no, I don't do that. If somebody wants to consume the message, join the live stream, they can. If somebody wants to solicit me for business, they can, no problem. If somebody wants to spam me, which I get a lot of that too, they can do that too. That's the nature of social media. Kyle talked about that a little bit tonight. I really do consider myself way above that stuff. I really, really do. And, for the opportunity, even to be introduced to certain opportunities that I've had here, um, it's going to be interesting times like this where I've made certain investments in my life and people are like, why are you doing that? It only comes to fruition when the investment pays off. And then they're like, oh, you knew something. And it's like, No, not really. I just have some imagination and perspective about the aspirations that I have about where I think something will go. And I'm very good at it, very good at it. I can't tell how long it's going to take. I can't tell you. But yeah, Hyliion's one of those projects. There's been some massive insider buying and nobody's talking about it. Massive insider buying. There was a downgrade in the stock by Goldman Sachs to $2.25 the very next day. They were buying massive swaths of the stock. Should be illegal. Evidently, it's not. Why? Because those institutions evidently are untouchable. I don't know. Nothing like a corner of social media to come and talk about those utter realities. Perhaps maybe it's not one of those things where it's so easily manipulatable to come on and suggest that retail just surrender their shares so folks like Goldman Sachs can come and gobble up a bunch of shares for themselves like they've done hundreds and hundreds of times over in the past. I think this is going to be a different scenario. I really do. I think they're marching towards something very, very special. You know, when the CFO, picks up, what did he pick up? 25,000, 75,000 shares. I think 25,000 shares, something like that. Pretty exciting stuff when you see that type of buyer excitement. And, it's going to be fun watching the story unfold. I haven't done a whole lot of combing through the market with the intent of starting new positions right now. I just don't think that's very prudent. Dollar cost averaging over the diversified market seemed to make sense here, and picking my spots, and we'll see the fruits of that labor in the coming years as the market stabilizes and continues on with its continued path upwards. But highly onto the moon, absolutely. I see that happening. It'll be interesting the end of next year. Perhaps maybe my tone and tenor might be a little bit different, but we are indeed just crept over 3% toward our goal. And it speaks to the time perspective. There's been a few people who are like, well, I've held for 2 years. So what? Time doesn't matter in the market. It doesn't mean that you're more eligible to make money because you've held the stock, for 2 years. What it does mean is that because you've held it 2 years, you would expect to be able to quantify or qualify the marked progress over the course of that 2 years within the company. Now, there's a fundamental analysis of a company and justifying, but not just because you've held the stock 2 years that all of a sudden we're due for a payday. I don't see that happening until next year, but I do see a slow drift up. And I would see the stock probably between 15 and 20 by mid next year in anticipation of what's inevitably going to happen, rolling into 2024 with these units being made. I think there's something big happening. I've always thought that that big thing could have happened, 24 months ago. It didn't happen 24 months ago, nor did it happen 18 months ago, nor 12 months ago. But it is inevitably going to happen, and when it's done, it's going to be exciting times. I'm glad to really share that story with you guys. But we got a couple minutes left. We will start to wind it down here. Want to thank the patrons in the message. There was 50 strong in the live stream tonight. Very cool stuff. Good evening, sir. Salute. Appreciate you, Jonathan. Thanks for making your way in. Oh my goodness. Andre says, "Oh my God, that's awesome." D Tanks in the house for sure. Says, "Get your drink ready." Fantastic. Great to see you, sir. Hope all's well with you and the family, man. Happy holidays to you as we enter into this holiday season. We do have a lot to be thankful for, man. Let's take stock of that. No pun intended. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. And to try to revolve around this financial thing holistically. If I make a mistake financially and I feel like it's a stock mistake, hell, I have no problem coming on and saying I think it's a mistake. Is highly on a mistake up to this point? Sure, sure. In some eyes, not mine, not mine. Um, and I'll be wrong, 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 wrong for multiple months and dare I say years until I'm right. And then when it turns right, does it automatically make it a right decision at that juncture? Of course not. Of course not. It was wrong up until it was right. And if that's the way you want to qualify your stock market approach, then so be it. I don't look at it that way. I just look at it like I bought shares in a company that I believe in, period. Drop the mic. I'm done. Judge me how you will. It doesn't define who I am if the stock goes down. It doesn't define who I am if the stock goes up, right? These are the intangibles that I'm really trying to help you guys understand for sure. Got Derek in the house. Derek, great to see you, man. Health and wealth. Totally agree. I feel like a savage. Whipped that ass in the gym this morning, man, every single day except one. One, I had to be at work at 4:30 in the morning. That was a little bit of a tough day. But I got Eric with shaded light in the house, man. You're perfectly correct. I don't know. Challenge everything I say, Eric. Man, it's all good. It's all good. We got Jared in the house. Got my fellow Vipers in the house. Jamie, hope all is well with you, my brother. Great to see you. Fantastic, man. Super cool. He says he's at work. It's awesome. Working it up, man. I put my fair share of work in this week. That's for sure. Says, did I buy Nicola? No, you ask me this every week. I don't know why you do. Um, I don't know why you do. The last buy I made about 1,000 shares of highly on it, about $3.05. Hmm. My last micro cap position that I picked up was Aduro Clean Technology, which was the proposal through the channel. We're going to be chronicling that story indefinitely, having partnered with Shell in their Game Changer program. That's a stock that has some really, really interesting upside, and some increasing pressure to the backside. And it's going to be interesting to see that story unfold. And we will be covering that on the Independent Investor channel for sure, watching that story unfold. Very cool stuff. Got Nick in the house. Thanks for your insight. Appreciate it. It's just my opinion, brother. It's all good. Nobody special, man. I work with a lot of people that have a lot of intangibles, a hell of a lot better than me. That's for sure. But as far as the intangibles with regard to how I see financial markets, I'm always looking to improve um, my posture and my approach to this. And I can tell you, part of my recipe towards success is not being arrogant. It's the opposite. It's acknowledging that you don't and can't know it all. And you start from there. Perhaps maybe you can approach this with a little bit more of a clear mind and understanding what your true potential is. And until you can get to that point, you'll never enjoy the level of success that you have coming to you in financial markets until you do that self reflection, breakdown, and rebuilding of yourself. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in for this Friday live stream. It is, in fact, and indeed, the fastest 60 minutes on YouTube. It goes by super fast because it is indeed my favorite topic to discuss, and looking to empower one investor at a time. And we believe that we are doing that. We will be back next Friday on the live stream. Have a great weekend, and we will catch you next week.